immigrants have made our scientific community strong, they've made our nation strong, and especially right now, we wanted to highlight the role of immigrants and their children.
All right, guys, I love this film. I was so moved by it. That was just so unexpected. Now I know why it's the audience favorite at film festivals.
Thank you so much.
I'm used to interviewing actors who play superheroes, but you guys found the real-life superheroes.
Oh, thank you.
In these characters. How did you find these guys? I mean, they are just marvelous in every aspect.
We basically just cast a pretty wide net. You know, the 1,700 kids from 78 different countries who participate in the science fair. And quite frankly, it's like an embarrassment of riches if you're a filmmaker. Every one of those kids you could do a documentary on. But we wanted to do a sort of representative sample. So we found, you know, kids from the best high schools like Jericho on Long Island with Dr. Cristina or DuPont Manual High School in Louisville, Kentucky. And then we were also looking for the underdogs. So we found kids like Kashfia and Robbie from schools that, you know, don't support STEM as much, and then even longer shots like Milene and Gabrielle from Brazil, who come from a very small town in the interior of Brazil, who did amazing research on the Zika virus. So, you know, we were looking for basically kids from all walks of life, and that's a pretty fair, I think, representations of the kids that wind up at ISEF.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you mentioned Kashfia?
Kashfia.
I mean, she's a Muslim American. She talks about being a loner at school. Nobody knows she even exists there, that she even won a science fair. I mean, she's such a, you know, you tell a lot of stories about children of immigrants who have a work ethic that they have to, you know, you're in America, you have to excel.
Yeah. That was very important to us. I'm the daughter of an immigrant who is very hardworking and has, you know, instilled in me and my brothers just how important it is and how amazing our opportunity is. And I think Dr. McCullough says it very well that you know, we understand just how hard we have to work. We understand that not everybody has these opportunities, and we really felt like you can't talk about science and you can't talk about America's role as a scientific leader without talking about the contributions of immigrants. And so, you know, immigrants have made our scientific community strong, they've made our nation strong, and especially right now, we wanted to highlight the role of immigrants and their children.
I mean, I always knew immigrants because I came from a diverse, you know, Asian and Indian culture. They're just so into education. Yeah. You know, you show that here, especially with kids from, you know, children of immigrants. I mean, you're Latina behind the camera. Yay!
Right.
That's awesome. Was it important to cast a wide, diverse, you know?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, we wanted to show kind of the diversity that exists in the science fair world, and I think it would maybe surprise people just how, you know, how many children of color there are in that world, and also how many girls there are. For the first time when we were there were more girls than boys competing in the science fair, which is very exciting. And it's a great opportunity for young women to, you know, show what they've got. And for me, I was a science fair kid growing up, and I went 2 years in a row, and it totally reinforced, you know, it reinforced me. It taught me that my ideas were important, and during the dark years of high school, it was like my lifeboat. So this was kind of a love letter to the science fair world for us.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had science fair. There was science fair, but I had no knowledge of it, you know. So, I mean, and you talk about that in the film, how two of the students, their schools were not supportive of them. They kind of had the inspiration and the ambition to do it on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the kids that wind up at the International Science Fair are self-motivated. Yeah. They have an innate curiosity about the world and things, and so you know. But certainly, the road for them is a bit harder without having any mentorship or leadership to follow. So it's all the more remarkable when you see what they've accomplished at that young of an age. But yeah, certainly, you know, the nice thing about ISEF, and you know, I think our documentary, you know, it's not diversity for diversity's sake. That is what ISEF looks like.
Yeah. Right.
It's kids from all kinds of backgrounds, all walks of life, who just, you know, are been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to go there.
Yeah. How great is Dr. McCullough? I mean, we wish we had Dr. McCullough everywhere who pushes her students.
I know. If the world was run by Dr. McCullough's, it would be a much different world.
I was telling her she should get in touch with LeBron James. I mean, he should watch this film. LeBron James,
We
one
love
science fair.
I think LeBron James should get in touch with her.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I'm hoping he watches this film because it's very inspirational. Like I said, my husband was moved, which I was surprised, and I was moved. So I want to talk about also. When we think of science people, we think of, stereotype, the nerd.
Yeah.
But they're not. I mean, these people are so diverse in their personality. Robbie is like a star.
Right.
You would never know he does AI because, he's just so out there with his personality.
That was super important to us to show that these are, brilliant kids and kids doing amazing things, but they're also teenagers. And it was so fun following the boys around, for example, because they'd be doing amazing research in their lab, and then they'd all get in the car and put on trap music, and they're teenagers, and they're very complicated, colorful people, and I think it was important to show how complex they were as characters, because that's who they are. They're not just one-sided nerds.
Yeah. And then Robbie is great because there's some people who are not academically inclined.
Yeah.
And it shows that even if you're not academically inclined, doesn't mean you're not smart.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It just means your focus is on something else.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. No.
Is that the attraction of his story?
Yeah.
Yeah,
for
definitely.
Sure.
I mean, the attraction of Robbie's story is that he's Robbie.
Yeah.
I mean, like this is an incredible kid, and but it was very important for us to show that there are different ways of learning, there are different ways of achieving, and so not every kid in this film or at ISEF is a genius. Some of these kids just work really hard, and others obviously are very gifted. But I think to Christina's point, it was really important for us to just show that these were real well-rounded kids with interests outside of science, and not just the stereotypical science fair kid or something like that.
I would also say we wanted to show kind of that the rigid academic environment doesn't work for everybody.
Right.
The traditional school isn't how a lot of kids grow, and Robbie didn't find that he was growing in school, and so he was failing out of math when we met him. But then he, on the aside, had this prime number theory project, a math project that won all of the state of West Virginia. So he was good at math. He just wasn't applying himself to the boring stuff that he was learning in school. And I think it's one of the most important kinds of learning is self-guided exploration. And so that's another reason that science fair is amazing and that we wanted to celebrate it.
And Robbie was mentioning in the interview as well. He's saying that he TAs at Stanford and he works at Stanford, but they don't allow him in because of his grades. How ridiculous is that?
Yeah. I mean, it makes you question the priorities if you're just interested in grades and and test scores, and not as interested in his groundbreaking scientific achievements.
So are we going to see a part 2? I would love to see even more.
Well, every single one of these kids are worthy of a follow-up, and we're having a hard time keeping up with their accomplishments since we've turned off the cameras. But we'll see. I mean, Cristina and I, we really love working together, and we have a bunch of ideas for a follow-up. But we're really just enjoying the ride of Science Fair. It feels like it's just beginning, even though it's been 9 months that we've been with the film now.
Yeah.
And some of the students are actually trying to come up with cures or prevention of health issues. I mean, that's just blows my mind. The youngest one is 14 years old.
Yeah, Anjali. It's amazing.
Wow.
I mean, you might think that science fair would just be baking soda volcanoes and kid projects, but these kids are doing real amazing science. There were 500 patents that came out of the fair that we covered alone. So it's real science, and it's having an impact, and a lot of science fair projects that started at ISEF go on to become real science.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that part. I just thought, building volcanoes or building mechanical things. I never realized that these kids were also attempting to solve, worldwide issues.
And I think they have quite a bit of success doing it because teenage brains, in my opinion, are kind of unfettered and with self-doubt and all these other things cynicism that hamper adults. And so I think they have the ability to think outside the box and think freely in a way that maybe we as adults don't.